Well, hello everyone. It's DBJ, and today is Tips and Tricks Tuesday. And I today's advice is going to be, or even thing to think about. It's going to be about using a third element, a third conflict, maybe a third obstacle, um, a goal, an agenda in your RPGs. And this my specialty is my self-appointedness as being a third pillarist. So I love using the environment, but you really don't need to use the environment exclusively, although I would love you to do that. um, but it's the idea that crowding the field can actually be a good thing. So let's start at the beginning. um, you're running a game, and the PCs must confront an arch nemesis. They are confronted by bandits. They are on a starship and they are boarded. Um, any event. And in this event, you have the PCs versus someone else. Now, this could be a social encounter, which could be the PCs must convince the king to send troops to help neighboring villagers. This could be the PCs must convince um, the dockmaster to allow them to take a starship, even though it doesn't belong to them. It could be the PCs are sneaking into um, the 38th floor of a hotel to steal some important documents. It doesn't matter what it is, right? But sometimes you can get stuck with, because I know I do. I get stuck with, this sounds a little too cliche. It's boring. There's nothing. There's no meat to this scene, right? And essentially, the problem is, and this is something that is used exclusively in television programming, and that is to create a deadly triangle. Now, deadly does not necessarily mean that it is life threatening, although life threatening triangles are important. But the triangle would mean that you have the PCs, you have your adventurers, you have your players, you have your enemy, whatever goal they need to meet, and you have something that prevents them from getting to that goal, whether it's an individual, whether it's an army, whether it's giant robots, whether it's a dragon or a mutated owlbear or whatever it may be. But the use of a third element can really twist things around. So let me give you an example. Let's use persons, let's use places, and let's use things. All right. When the players need to convince the king or talk to the dockmaster or sneak into the 38th floor of a building or attack the mutated owlbear or get past the dragon, maybe there is a third group or individual that disrupts the plans of both sides. So for example, what if the players want to confront the dragon, but a third adventuring party has come in and is attempting to steal the ancient sword of Redgar that you guys were going after, and the dragon had in his hoard? Well, what happens? Do the players stop and not go after the dragon that they just angered, and then go after the adventuring party? Do they split their resources? Does the dragon change its attention from the player characters who were just mouthing off to these interlopers, these thieves that stole the Redguard sword? Throwing in a person to disrupt negotiations, to disrupt sneaking into a building, whether it's a guard who's eating a donut and drinking coffee, to office workers who are having an illicit affair in one of the offices, and the player characters were told that the building was empty, to um, jealous coworker who is trying to steal files that have nothing to do with what the player characters are doing, but this individual is also trying to be elusive. Anything. Now, a third party individual that can disrupt things could be a member of the enemy. So, for example, the player characters are confronted by bandits, and the bandits are like, "Give me all your stuff. You need to give me your things." Blah blah blah. The player characters try to negotiate. Listen, we don't want any trouble. And maybe one of the minor members of the bandit party maybe tries to sneak off or pickpocket one of the player characters, or is derailing the negotiations. Maybe no one wants a real confrontation. One of the player characters reaches in his bag of holding and is like, "I've got a sack of gold. I'll give it to you. Just leave us alone. We don't really need to fight, and I don't need the gold." And one of the minor members of the bandit party is like, "Well, if you have that much gold, you've got more where that came from." And maybe the bandit chieftain is just like, "Dude, chill. Like, we've got the gold. We're safe. They leave. That's all we wanted." Now, when we get into places should create tension. So maybe the bandits attack, but there's a storm coming, or a blizzard, or the sounds of a flash flood. Um, the players are hunting down a rabbit owlbear, but in the woods, someone has set a forest fire, or um, the telltale sounds of high winds are coming and a tornado is about to hit, or a rock slide. Um, Anything that sets a the tone that this must be accomplished in a specific amount of time, or else danger will strike. You want to create that tension where the environment is unstable. It is neither the friend of the PCs and not really the friend of the enemy, but is this third obstacle that each of them must overcome. So if the players are sneaking into the 38th floor of an office building, and the office building is under construction, and then everyone hears the creak and moan as the the crane system bolts have snapped or something, or guards are making a sweep through the building, and they began turning the power on and off for each room, going through a system check. Anything like that. Maybe it's known that hackers were going to hack the building at a particular day and time, and the player characters must get inside, utilize the downed security system when the hackers take the security system down, but they must rush to get the information and steal it before the hackers are able to get to the information themselves. Anything like that. And of course, there's things. Things can be anything from documents to um, uh, running horses, to just anything that you can throw into the encounter that will, as a third element, disrupt the proceedings so that it splits the attention of the party, splits the attention of the enemy, and makes things more difficult. Now, why would you even want to split the attention of anyone? Well, this allows, I know, don't split the party, but you also want to allow the ability for various players to spotlight themselves. So, for example, in your party, you have a bard, and the bard is the one that always does all the sweet talking. Well, everyone else may have to twiddle their fingers, right? But let's say there's a big burly guy who, like, you could tell he likes to wrestle, arm wrestle, get into bare knuckle fights or something, and the proceedings won't continue until this guy with a chip on his shoulder and big ham-fisted you know um punches and such wants to get in a fight with the barbarian first, and the person dealing is like, "Wait, I want to see how this turns out. Hey, if your guy wins, I'll give you a 20% discount, or if my guy wins, um proceedings are over. We're not going to do this anymore. And then the players are like, okay, how can we guarantee that our barbarian friend wins? And the bard is like, okay, I'm going to have to twist the negotiations based on what the barbarian does in this arm wrestling championship, that kind of thing. So anyway, the idea is that to have a third objective. Now, a third objective could be that the MacGuffin may be somewhat or somewhere or something that both sides want to get to or obtain before the or during the conflict. So an example would be a rabbit, rampaging owlbear has cubs, and the player characters know they can stop the rampaging owlbear if they collect the cubs and take them out of the farmer's barn and move them somewhere else. But they also know that the owlbear will go into a fit and rage by messing with the owlbear's cubs and eggs, or I don't know how they give birth. So you can use a third objective as a way to disrupt what's going on. So does the owlbear continue to attack the village or the PCs, or does it go after the rogue and the cleric who scooped up the eggs and the little owlbear cubs and decided to run off into the woods? Will the owlbear turn tail and turn its back to the archer who's trying to kill it as it goes rushing off after its baby cubs, right? Maybe the players are trying to convince the dockmaster to allow them to take a sailing ship or maybe a starship or something. And in the background, there's a protest, a union protest by the Mechanics League, and they want equal rights on the space habitat, and the dockmaster's rolling his eyes, and then security comes rushing in, and the player characters are constantly looking over, and then all of a sudden a giant fight breaks out, and things get thrown, and people get pushed around, and the dockmaster leaves. Now, the dockmaster hasn't agreed or disagreed to what's going on, but maybe if the dockmaster gets attacked by the protesters and the player characters come and protect the dockmaster as they fend off the protesters, maybe the dockmaster might be more inclined to allow them to pass by or get the keys to the ship or get safe passage over to the archipelago or whatever have you. So adding in a third element to your encounters can really disrupt things. And of course, as a game master, introduce problems, don't create solutions. When you introduce the problem, sure, in your head you may go, I can see this going 3 or 4 different ways, but don't write that in stone. Let the players become creative in their problem solving. Does a player character use prestidigitation to make a funny trick to distract the merchant's daughter who is disrupting the proceedings? And then the merchant's like, oh, you made my daughter laugh, I'll give you a 30% discount, or sure, I'll take you in my secret stash of spell scrolls or something, because you brought a smile to my daughter's the player characters sneak into the 38th floor to steal some documents, and there's a secret board meeting the players didn't know about, and the board members are discovered, and they call their private black ops security to take out the player characters, and so they're being chased through the building, and while they're being chased through the building, there's building security who considers everybody an enemy, and they're just saying halt right there, and then one of the black ops agents turns on one of the guards, and one of the players is like, that's not how we work. We're thieves, but we don't kill people. So then they want to take out the black ops person to save the guard. And maybe the guard is like really thankful, even though this person is a criminal. So the guard doesn't say anything, when the guard is showing a picture of who broke in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So is this complicated? Yes, of course it's complicated, because you're adding in a third element and you got to keep track of that. But all you really need is a motivation. What does the person want? What do they need? What do they fear? What do they desire? Once you have that down, no matter what the players do, you just go back to that one draw. The rabbit, owlbear terrorizing the village. What does the owlbear want? Owlbear wants to protect its cubs that are hiding in the farmer's barn, and it's just upset. It Maybe it was pushed out of its natural habitat and moved into civilization. That could lead to something else. Maybe leave a clue. Maybe whatever pushed it um, into humanity's circle were maybe hunters who've been hunting down owlbears and skinning them and leaving their dead bodies everywhere in carcasses. So you can always add in the third element. Well, anyway, I'm DBJ, your self-appointed third pillarist, contributing writer to Critical Hit Publishing. Check out Cinematic Environs. That is my baby over at Drive Through RPG. The links should be found below. Um, Anyway, have a very good day, and thank you for your attention.